Hello and welcome to Very Interesting. I'm your host, Phillip Britt. In 2010, the Wake Foundation was started by veterans to help other veterans in need. Today I'm joined by Robert Wake, Director of the Wake Foundation. Welcome to Very Interesting. So glad to have you here today.
I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. So tell us first about Robert Wake. Who's Robert Wake?
Robert Wake was born in the Boot Hill, Missouri, in Kennett, born and raised in Kennett, was a Kennett Indian and went to school there. Went into the military in 1981 and went and done basic training in Fort Knox, Kentucky, and went and got my first MOS in Fort Gordon, Georgia. So I served in the level and capacity of the military for several years, but I'm also an ordained minister. So I also have been in the ministry and served in the ministry, which is a very strong part of my life as far as what I do. But served in the military, retired out in 2010, was wounded in combat in 2004 in Najaf, Iraq, in a severely bad gun battle that we'd went through. During that time, it was during the extension that I got wounded. I went through 9 ambushes in 12 days and knew eventually I was going to end up getting wounded. And we were on a gun battle on top of at Iraqi police station. And we'd been in a 17-hour gun battle. And in the middle of the night, about 3 o'clock, they had shot a mortar round in on top of us and exploded and took me and a couple other soldiers out. And so a lot of things about it I remember, some things I don't. Something that I thought took 15 minutes to get me to safety took 5 hours and something to get us to safety. And I was awarded the Purple Heart on July the 4th on Independence Day. So every Independence Day, you know, some people look at it as a time of celebration, but I look back and think about what my body went through.
Sure.
And because I really suffered a lot, I was in a hospital for 13 months, and I had surgeries and different things that I had to deal with and had to go through. So, and then at the same time, it was a whole lot different being in the ministry because, you know, we're the people that's working on giving life and not taking life. Right. So in the ministry, in my lifetime, I've been involved with a lot of different things that involve making a difference in people's lives. I lived in Oklahoma City and was a state evangelist in the state of Oklahoma. And when Timothy McVeigh blew up the federal building, I heard the explosion. And I went to the bomb site and I was there for 17 days. So as a lot of those people were being uncovered and being brought up out of the rubble, I was there and witnessed it. But I was also at the church there as an ordained minister helping the grieving families, which we had like 1,500 of them on the first floor that we dealt with. And every time a victim would be notified, we would take the family upstairs on the 4th floor and would have to tell them where their loved one was found, the condition of the loved one. And it was pretty massive. It was a strong undertaking, and there's so many stories in there that are incredible. But after that, I decided to come back home. And the war was picking up overseas. And so during that time, my son was a 4.0. He graduated out of Malden and a very sharp young man. And in college, matter of fact, he graduated with a 4.0 in his master's. And right now he works for a company out of Cape and makes a very good living, doing well. But I had a concern about them bringing him into the military during that time because things was happening overseas. Sure. So I'd been in the military and had served for a long time, so I re-enlisted because I wanted him to focus on his school. Right. And so I was sent to Iraq, but I never dreamed that I would be going through, you know, I have, in my lifetime, I have counseled, that's what I've done at the Oklahoma City bombing. I counseled these families and every day as they were waiting for word on their loved one. And the sadness and the sorrow of it was incredible, having to deal with that. And but anyway, whenever I got over into Iraq, I never imagined what I would be facing when I got there. And for the first year, we arrested a lot of Saddam's military, because I went in the beginning of the war in 03 and 04. And going over there, we arrested a lot of his military, took them to the Abu Ghraib prison, dealt with roadside bombs, served warrants, went out and arrested these people. And so we got close to our deployment. I had went through some skirmishes and some gun battles, but I was there when the suicide bombers attacked Baghdad. I was there whenever they captured Saddam. I was not at where Saddam was, but I was in the city. And then I was also there whenever they took out both of his sons. And we even went out and picked up Saddam's sons' Ferraris and the different high-dollar cars and vehicles they had. And but the experience of that alone was pretty incredible. Dealt with SAM missiles coming in on top of us where we were sleeping, and bombs and suicide bombers. But when we got extended in 2004, we went down to Najaf because of the fact that it had been taken over by insurgents. And so we had the responsibility of taking that city back. Sure. And that was the beginning of severe, you know, when you're in the ministry and all of a sudden you find yourself in life or death situations. And when we got into Baghdad the very first night, I was a gunner. And I was an older gunner at the age of 38. And when you're 38 years old in the military, you're considered an old man. And so anyhow, we went out, and I remember as we were coming through a circle in town, seeing a bright flash, and I had my night vision goggles on, seeing a bright flash, and there was an insurgent to the right of me that had an RPG on his shoulder, and he had shot that RPG. And you know, the only time I had time to say was, God help me. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have time to say, is this all right? Or, right. You know, I only had time to respond. I had to protect who was with me. So the RPG came right over the top of my head, about 4 feet, and then dove into the Humvee in front of me and exploded. And it disabled it. Sure. And all of a sudden, all of these insurgents got up off the ground and just started pounding my Humvee, and I was the last one. We had took DOD out and located a cache of weapons, so we went to recover those weapons. I knew that suppressive fire was going to be what was going to save her life. It was so bad. A St. Louis police officer who was in the military that was there with me, who was my best friend, he looked up the turret, and as he looked up, he could see tracers of bullets going in front of me and going behind me. And he said that he'd already looking for a place to lay my body because he knew that I was fixing to get shot. Mm-hmm. And so they were shooting out from behind gas tanks at a gas station, and you couldn't hardly see them. And it was really strange because I had a machine gun, and in order just to protect us, I blew up every gas tank there was. Sure. And massive explosions just laid me out in the bottom of the Humvee. After we come out of that circle and got through it, my adrenaline had wore me out so bad I couldn't even pick myself up. I couldn't even pick up the gun. It was so overwhelming. So after that gun battle was over, I knew and they knew that there was a lot of people killed. Yeah. And so they kept me back, and that was the beginning of 9 ambushes. And from then on, probably because of my age, and they knew that I wasn't going to play around with it, they would send me out where there were places they thought would be an ambush, and sure enough, there was.
You know, all those, so I don't know, you don't know my history, but I spent about 12 years doing the Veterans Treatment Court over in Poplar Bluff. I started that court as the judge for that court. And you know, everything that you talk about is so traumatic. Every event that you've mentioned here, I mean, including the Oklahoma City scenario that you were involved in, the bombing. How did you deal with that, bringing that trauma back with you?
You know, there was several times that, like for instance, when I was at the Oklahoma City bombing, and we would take a family upstairs. We had a Thompson family. And they'd been waiting for 15, 14 days. And what they didn't know was where Timothy McVeigh set the van and where that explosion was exactly where their mother's body was. I had a sheet of paper that showed where everyone was in that building at the time of the explosion and where they projected that their bodies ended up at. And it was pretty true, it was pretty accurate. And but we took this one family up, and this young girl, as we were going up the elevator, was weeping and said, well, at least they found Mama. And my heart just sunk, because we were there to tell her that we couldn't get her body out of the building. And so we got up there, and the weeping and the depths of sorrow was terrible. After that was over with, my only relief was finding a closet and getting in the closet and weeping and crying just to get relief of how severely bad it was. I worked with a lot of famous people there at these events. I worked with Kirstie Alley. I worked with Dallas Cowboys. They were Super Bowl winners, and they would come in and visit with the families. And so I worked with a lot of people that really come in and made a difference. Good. They could care less about anything but the families. But that was the only way I could get relief. Sure. When I come back from Iraq, to be honest with you, things was different. Family couldn't see it. I mean, could see it, but I couldn't see it. Life was different. Things that that meant a lot or was severe, or dramatic beforehand meant nothing, to me, because of the fact I had been through so much. Sure. It would really take something major for it to impact me, But there were some things that happened. I was living in Malden during that time, and whenever I'd come home, and my son was in college at SEMO, and I left Malden and went to Dexter, and ended up in the top of Ohio 8 hours later, and had no idea how I got there, and just totally freaked me out. Sure. So when I come back as fast as I could, went to the VA, and they done tests, and they said, you're having severe flashbacks. Sure. And so I went through 5 years of intense in-your-face counseling. Yeah. Oh, because it scared me so bad. I said, I don't want no part of this. Right. I want to do whatever I have to do to solve this. And I had one other episode. A pastor friend of mine who pastored a Assembly of God church here in town. He was my over me while I was in Iraq. You have to have somebody to be your person that takes care of your business here. And he was with me, and it happened while I was with him. And so I was with him about 4 hours, and 4 hours I don't have no memory of. But I went through all this counseling, and all that went on in like 2007 and 2008, and I haven't had those issues. And while I was wounded, they sent me to some of these events that we do. Okay. There was events they sent me in Aspen, Colorado, where they teach veterans to ski down Aspen Mountain. Okay. And all of that. Also, I went to San Diego, and we would do kayaking events. We would do sailboating. We would be doing all those kind of events. And there I was, one of the partners we had there is Bo Derek, and she was huge on helping a lot of people today don't know who Bo Derek is, but you and I do.
Oh, absolutely.
And so whenever I come back, one of the things I realized is that these veterans had to have a sponsor. They couldn't fly.
Needed somebody to support.
They couldn't have a hotel. And the Department of Veteran Affairs put these on. And so because they didn't have anyone, they had to have people outside, nonprofits, different organizations to sponsor and to pay their way. Okay. So in 2010, I formed the Wake Foundation, and I teamed up with some people, and we become a nonprofit and began to work on making a difference in veterans' lives to make sure that, because this was a part of their recovery. Mm-hmm. And some of the things about the drug court that you've been a part of and things like that is so huge and instrumental. I mean, we got so many veterans. Week before last, they called me, and there was a veteran that had 24 hours to live, and come to find out he was a Marine, and they was looking for somebody to be with him when he died. So I went to the hospital, and was with him to his last breath. And you know, once he died, and I realized that he was homeless, and that he had been homeless for quite a while. You know, it went through my mind, where's this guy been? Why is he homeless? Why was he a Marine for 5 years and had nobody to help him? And we buried him at the Bloomfield Cemetery. And when they contacted me, they said, I am a big partner of the VA in Poplar Bluff, and I have been a partner for a year. I'm also a partner with both VAs in St. Louis, Missouri. Our foundation has become so big. We're also partners of both VAs in Little Rock, Arkansas. And this is how my friend Mark Littell got involved with us. I met Mark, and they called Mark and told him that, you know, we need to introduce you to Mr. Wake. And me and Mark, with him being a baseball player, we went on adventures and visited hundreds of veterans, or hundreds of active duty, and really done a lot of good. But we, after the foundation took off, our first year, we raised $25,000 to try to pay for veterans and for events and all of that. And the foundation exploded and become massive. I mean, we have about a 40,000 following of veterans. We began to do things for our veteran community. And there's so many things we do. For instance, you have to be 100% to have dental work done on your teeth. Anything that's 90% and under, you're just out of luck. So we started getting phone calls, and without our knowledge, the VA dental clinic started saying, you know, we think we have some people that will help with that. So we send veterans to St. Louis, and we have their teeth paid for and taken care of. It's just one of the small things we do.
But that's a huge thing. I mean,
it is huge.
For someone who really needs that. And you know, it may be situations that you know, everybody needs dental work done, you know, and if you can't afford to do it, that's a real challenge, especially if you're getting all your other, you know, your health care and everything else through the VA. You kind of expect that, and it's unfortunate that that's not available for them there. We
even started getting phone calls about veterans who were in a morgue that had passed away and had no family, no one to bury them. And, you know, I got a phone call that said, Mr. Wake, if you don't help us, their body's going to be sent to the state. And you know what they do with that. And so we began to pay for veterans to be buried and made sure they were honored. When they called me and they said, listen, we're going to bury this Marine, and we have another veteran that we found at the Twin Towers in Poplar Bluff that passed away. And both of them are going to be buried at the same time. And so I said, okay. So I sent out into my social media, and whenever I got there, it was packed. There were people everywhere. I got a phone call from KFES 12, and they know me real well. Roger is a good friend of mine. And they said, we would like to live stream that funeral. So they showed up, and it was really a celebration. Marines come in and done a tribute to the Marine, and the Army come in, the 21 gun salute, and just people were very overwhelmed. And all of these people that were there said, we know you from your social media. And most of them I did not know. Yeah. But over the years, we have advanced from $25,000 a year sponsoring to we're over $1 million a year. That's great. And I had to work very hard fundraising. Sure. I mean, I spend hours, weeks, days raising money. We do the honor flights, what I call celebration flight for our veterans. We do 5 of those celebration flights a year. We just got through doing 2 of them in Cape Girardeau. And we sent 7 World War II veterans. Wow. One of the veterans was, I believe, 105. Sure. The youngest World War II veteran was 98. Yeah. The rest of them, I think we took 11 Korean War veterans. You know, somebody asked me, said, where'd you find these people at? And you just have to really look for them. Sure. You know, we have one veterans home in Iowa that has 87 Korean War veterans in it. Wow. And a lot of them very able and capable. Sure. But we took 4 different planes, and we flew to Washington, D.C. nonstop, and they donated half of the flight. Wow. And so it was incredible. And we got the opportunity to take them into the White House. But it was during the cherry blossom festivals, and it was beautiful.
Gosh, yeah. So when you do that, I want to ask a little bit about this, the honor flight. So when you do those, do you have volunteers that go with you?
We do.
Like one per veteran? Is that the way you do it? I know,
how it normally,
I've seen some of those where they basically do it.
How it normally does is we normally take 50, and at a time, 30 of them are veterans.
Okay.
The rest of them are caretakers.
Okay.
You know, and those caretakers are very important.
Sure.
You know, it costs us $1,000, and the price is going up on that because of the way things are. It costs us $1,000 per veteran, and we're able to send a caretaker, and they go for $800. Okay. But we go for 3 days. We don't go for one.
That's great.
And we show them monuments all over. Mm-hmm. One of the most moving is when we take them to the wall.
Sure.
And there's so many of them that meets a friend that's on the wall that was maybe in their arms when they died, and because of the battle. So what an incredible way to be retired from the military.
Oh, absolutely. Nothing
any greater than hearing the stories. You know, one of them was that we were with in March was personal guard for Dwight Eisenhower. Wow. And the stories he had to say about him and his wife. I can't
imagine, yeah, that
you
would
know,
be amazing.
And to be able to experience that, and we got other honor flights scheduled. We got one scheduled in October, okay. And it's just really a huge event.
So
for
if someone
us.
wants to be a part of that, wants to volunteer, what do they have to do to volunteer?
All they have to do is be able to go to. I mean, they could call me or text me. Mm-hmm. I'm so busy. Texting is better. Sure. But they could text me at 573-281-6165. Okay. And what I do is I text them a picture of the application, okay. And let them know everything about it, you know. And but we also want to encourage listen, there's 60,000 living World War II veterans left. Wow. 107 die daily, yeah. On the average. And we want to get as many of those guys that we can. And because we fly in, this company would even fly into Malden. Okay. And I mean, you could literally do an honor flight right out of Malden. Sure. Because the plane is so small. Mm-hmm. And they said, Robert, we could land anywhere and do your honor flight, do your celebration. And so it's pretty incredible to be able to have that kind of connection. Absolutely. And but you know, when we took them to the White House, this is the first year the White House has been opened back up. Right. And took them, you know, we've had 2 to pass away since then.
But they got that opportunity.
They got that opportunity, yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be an amazing feeling that you were able to give them that chance.
And see, this is just one of the many things we do. Right. We sponsor 40 veterans on elk hunts, and you're talking about a very expensive. Sure. Last year we had 37 veterans kill an elk, wow. On our elk trips, and we do 32 deer hunts. We partner with the Corps of Engineers. Okay. Out of Wapapello and other locations. And we do deer hunts all the way from the top of Iowa all the way to the bottom of Arkansas. Wow. Another program that we do is, you've heard of Wreaths Across America. Mm-hmm. Well, we do Christmas stockings across America. Okay. And so what we do is we have different military style stockings that are pretty cool and pretty awesome. And we deliver them to veteran homes all over the United States. And we get letters and get calls from veterans and their families. We spend quite a bit of money doing that, but I personally am a part of delivering all these stockings. And to see the reactions of these old veterans in these veterans' home, and you know what their response is? We thought we were forgotten. Sure. And so moving to be a part of it. But let me explain to you, you know, you asked a question earlier about what made me do what I do. So when I got wounded on the roof, and remember, I've been a minister for years. I remember hearing the bomb come out of the tube, and it come out of from the Holy City, and not far away. And we were dealing with snipers trying to kill us. And this bomb came in and landed between me and the medic, okay. And it exploded. It busted out my front teeth, upper front teeth. It broke my nose. Shattered my right ankle, blew out my left knee. I had 141 pieces of shrapnel throughout my body. But I don't remember a lot. I do remember when the bomb exploded, that I remember it going up through my nose and just sucked all the oxygen out of my body. And I felt like my whole body was on fire, which was from the shrapnel, the hot little pieces of shrapnel. And so whenever it pulled all that oxygen out of me, I blacked out. Sure. And apparently landed on top of the medic. And so at some point in time, I came to enough to hear my heart beating in my ears. And I could hear somebody screaming at the top of their lungs and could hear gunfire. And I knew it was the medic. I mean, I didn't know, but it was the medic that was screaming. And so laying on that roof with my son in college, why, I don't know, but I told him goodbye. Because I thought I was fixing to die. Sure. I thought I was done. Yeah. So something happened because I went out, and when I went out, I found out later that a lieutenant was taking live pictures with a flash of me wounded and of the medic wounded. And they said every time that flash would go off, and here we were in a gun battle, right. And every time it would go off, they said I would crawl. And I had no memory of it. And so somehow I ended up on the other end of the side of the roof. And when I was laying on that roof, I remember coming to long enough to realize I was still alive. And this is exactly what I remember saying. I said, God, if you'll just get me home, I'll do whatever you want me to do. The same story that thousands of veterans have said in the time of battle. So I went out again. And the third time that I had come to, somehow I made my way to an open window. We trained Iraqi policemen to hold their post and to help us. And there was about 100 of them hiding in this room. But I didn't know who they was. I fell through the open window with all of my gear on, jarred. I don't have no memory getting to the window. Right. And I opened my eyes, and they were looking down at me, which I had blood all over me. And as they were looking down at me, I do remember grabbing the snap on my 9mm because I was just going to start shooting. Right. I didn't know who they was. And I was thankful that I went out. Sure. And the last time that I come to, I was in a stairwell. The military was calling my name over the radio, saying Wake's got blood coming out of his ears, coming out of his nose. And I said to myself, this is not good. Right. And the St. Louis police officer and another, the driver, carried me down 5 flights of stairs and got me into a Humvee and took me to what I call a MASH unit, like you see on television. And they began to work on me. But I only remember about 15 minutes of that 5 hours and something. But the fact that I made a promise, you know, that if he got me out of there.
The difference in your promise and a lot of other promises in that scenario is that you've done it.
Yes, sir.
You came home and you said, okay, I made a promise. And you remembered it, and you brought it back and said, okay, now what do I need to do?
That's exactly right.
And fortunately, you saw some need with other veterans that prompted you to say, this is what we need to do. These are the guys we need to help. You know, I was always impressed with the Valentine's Day
for veterans
concert in Poplar Bluff. Almost every year we gave tickets to every one of our veterans in our Veterans Treatment Court and their families, and it was so amazing for them to come back. And I only got to attend one of those, but for them to come back and actually share that experience and the recognition that they got. You know, they were recognized as veterans, and it meant so much to them individually and as a group to be included in that.
Thousands of them, thousands. And somebody, might say, there was a big star. We brought in a lot of big entertainers, and there were some of them that, I'll be honest with you, I was very unhappy with them. If you don't take the time out to visit our Gold Star families, I don't really have any interest in you. I had an entertainer that we called, and she said, well, we don't do autographs for veterans. And I said, well, then you're not coming. Right. you know. And I mean, we spend $75,000 to $100,000 on that event.
Yes.
And so, but I had one famous guy that I got on the bus with him, and he said, Mr. Wake, he said, can I give you some advice? And I said, sure. He said, never do nothing free for veterans. And I said, he said, they always want more. And I looked at him and I said, it's awfully funny. They're the one that paid your paycheck today.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then he didn't know what to say. But there's just so many things that I seen was not being met in the needs of our veteran community. Our foundation has become a foundation to be reckoned with.
Sure.
We're watchdogs. We're when we know there's something not right, you know. And I've worked with a lot of people. I'm very fortunate to have worked with our new governor, who is now in office and really good. I consider to be a great friend. And I've worked with several senators and several political people that have know what we do. They have personally come to our events. You know, we do a gala. I don't know if you've ever been to our gala, but it's massive and it's pretty incredible. And there's so many different things that happens in the foundation. If I had to sit here and tell you everything that we do, you would sit back and say, how in the world do you even have the time or the money to do that? Right. Where we were raising $25,000 a year, you know, right now I think last year that I went over a little over 800,000, and it takes more than that. Right now we're planning on building a 70,000 square foot headquarters on 67 in Poplar Bluff. Okay. This headquarters is going to probably cost around $17 million. And in this headquarters, it's going to be designed in a way that it's going to have a daycare center in it that's going to be free to veterans for their children. That's going to be a highly qualified program. Sure. It's also going to have a suicide prevention program. And we're partnering with other groups to deal with these folks with that have problems with drugs. You know, drug court, let me tell you something. Drug court's the best thing that ever happened to these guys and gals.
I agree.
It is absolutely the best. A lot of them, it's saving their lives, sure, even though it may be tough at times, but it's given them a second chance in life. We partner with AGC. I don't know if you know who AGC is. And because we partner with them, we also train veterans that are coming home and at Three Rivers College and train them to go to work. And then we have big companies come in, interview them, and hire them right on the spot, making anywhere from $30 to $60 an hour. Sure. If you can get veterans to work, absolutely, and they're feeding their children, they're clothing their children, and they have a sense of purpose, you have fought half of the battle.
Well, and that's a big part of unfortunately what happens to a lot of veterans when they leave the military is they had that structure, they right, had the purpose. They come home, they don't have that structure, they don't have that purpose. What am I supposed to do with my life at this point? And just like when you came home, things are different. Mm-hmm. You know, they see things different, feel things differently. And you know, I had a veteran in our veterans court that he told me he was going through the same kind of intensive
therapy,
PTSD therapy that you went through. And after it was over, he told me, he said, I hated every day of it. Mm-hmm. But once I got to this side of it, I couldn't remember why I was angry all the time. Mm-hmm. He said, I didn't realize I was angry all the time, but he said, I've been angry for like 25 years at that point.
Right.
And he said, I didn't know why, and this helped me figure out why. And so, you know, it's amazing. And the things that you're doing to support veterans, the things you're doing to, because these guys, they deserve our support, they deserve our respect, you deserve our respect. What do you expect and hope? So those may be two different things, but what are your expectations and hopes for the next 5 to 10 years of the foundation?
I hope to be able to have the new facility built within the next 2 years. Okay. Coming up, the money's a different story.
Sure.
In this building, not only is it going to have a daycare center and the suicide prevention program, It's also going to have a military-style restaurant in the one end of it, and it's going to be designed like it was if you were in the military. And we're going to have 5 different sitting areas. And if you were in the Navy, that sitting area will be designed like a ship was. And so you could take your family in and eat a meal and enjoy experiencing what your family member experienced. And then it's also going to have a workout center in it, which is always a big part of the military. And it's going to have a facility in it that's going to seat 5,000 people. So we're going to hold a lot of big events. There are so many different military things that happen. I don't know if you remember, I'm trying to remember, Bing Cosby done a show called White Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there is a group that does this to the T, first class. So at Christmas time, we're going to bring them in and do a real live event of it for veterans at Christmas time, and we'll pack it out. We pack out every event we do. And so, but there is so many things we're going to have. We're going to partner with a dentist there that works at the VA, and I'm not going to say any more about that. And he's going to help us with the dental side of it. And there's just so many other things that, there's 2 things being cut right now, and it's because of DOGE. And understand that they're trying to get through some of the things that should not be. But 2 major things that's being cut. One of them is PTSD, funding for PTSD. The second one is they're cutting funding for suicide prevention.
Yeah.
And so that's massive.
Absolutely.
These are things that are a must. Sure. Me as a foundation, the way I look at things, I feel like that we have an obligation, and we need to have an outreach to not only our veteran community, but all people. We got too many homeless people on the streets.
Agreed.
And we got to be able to reach them and help them. In the basement of this big facility, you can imagine 70,000 square feet. There's going to be a way for people to drive in underneath it and drive out. And we're going to have a food program that's going to be quarterly, where we can give food out to our public, to our veterans, to their families. And you would not believe the phone calls that I get. And there's just so many other things that's going to involve with that foundation, that, we got a couple of big veteran organizations that don't have a place they could call home. They're having to go from one facility to another facility to do their meetings. So we're going to even make it to where they have a place that's home for them.
That's great.
And there's going to be also a virtual reality room. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've ever been in one or not, but like, for instance, it may be set up like it was in World War II. It may be set up like Normandy. It may be set up like Vietnam. And the whole room is going to be lit up, the walls, the ceilings, and everything. And it's going to give you the sense as if you're there. So people can go in and actually experience what it was to be at a battle in World War I or a battle in World War II. The only problem with that we're going to deal with is with people with PTSD, and have to deal and say, listen, if you have...
They just need to recognize it may not be the thing for
it
them.
It may not be, right. But it gives that sense, people get it.
Sure.
And then there's going to be a massive museum in there where the restaurant is and where the other is. And we're going to be bringing in different artifacts, planes, tanks, and things like that, and really fixing the place up nice. And in that museum is going to be displays of veterans of Southeast Missouri. So when people go to that museum that's from here, they're going to say, I know that guy. Right. I know that man. Just like right now on the wall down right up here where they have the veterans, my name is on there, here in Malden. And we want to be able to remember all of these guys. And absolutely. I have things that will be displayed in the museum. But there's just so many. We're going to have some of the top-notch veteran officers in there, making sure veterans' benefits and needs are being met.
Good.
And so we're going to do everything that we can to help our veterans.
Well, I'm amazed by all the things you have planned, the things that you've already done and you are doing. Folks that are watching, if they want to volunteer, if they want to donate, if they want to be a part of the Wake Foundation, what do they have to do?
You know, they have to contact me. They can go to wakefoundation.org, thewakefoundation.org. They can go to my Wake Foundation Facebook page, or they can contact me. Our mailing address is at our office. Our office is right next to the Camelot RV Park on 67. And it used to be a antique building, and we remodeled it and turned it into our headquarters, and it's really nice on the inside. And the reason we moved there is because we're wanting to build the new facilities right down the road, and I'm going to be able to oversee it. And so, but anyhow, it's 65 County Road 527, Poplar Bluff, Missouri. And of course, if they want to call me, they can call me at 573-281-6165. And another thing is that we do vet people, and because we make sure that people are the kind of people that we need in the foundation. Good. And I do want to mention the Wake Foundation at this point is 100% nonprofit. No one in the entire foundation gets paid. I have 11 board members, and we just really have a foundation that I believe is second to none. And we intend, you know, I tell people all the time, when I die, I said, I want people to be able to look at me and say, you know what, that guy's life mattered. And to me, that's what I want to do. I want to matter. I want to make a difference.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story as well as the story of the foundation. Thank you so much. Robert Wake Foundation. You saw and heard how to help if you want to. Please do so, and we will see you next time.